So the first tale in the book is called 3 Trees to Midnight. I obviously bring out all the animals. It's a daily shimmy.
I'm sad the Hanar can't wear sweaters.
Hey guys, so I finally got my hands on the Dragon Age Tevinter Nights book, which I'm so excited about. I have read the first 3 chapters already, and I reread them again because I was like, did I miss anything? But I just wanted to talk about the first 3 chapters. I don't know if I'm going to talk about them in separate videos or in one video because I cannot stop reading this, and I also don't want to read anymore. Like, I'm trying to take it as slowly as possible because I just like I don't want it to end because it is so good, and I love like learning anything about the Dragon Age lore and about more characters, and it's just like so exciting and a surprise of what's coming next. So I don't know, I wish it never ended. But this is the front of the book here, and this is who it is edited by, and it says, Dragon Age Tevinter Nights, I have seen things in my journeys that most can only dream of. So the book is pretty big, which is cool because it is 15 tales inside. So I've read 3 chapters, which is probably about that much. So I've got a lot more to read, which is really good. So on the back it says, ancient horrors, marauding invaders, powerful mages, and a world that refuses to stay fixed. Welcome to Thedas. A world of stories, whether it be a tale of the stoic Grey Wardens or the otherworldly Mortalitazi necromancers. From proud Dalish elves to the unhanded and Tevinter assassins. These stories are filled with monsters, magic, and memorable characters making their way through a lethal world whose only constant is change. Experience 15 original tales that span every corner of Thedas and discover what dangers and monsters lurk there on the edge of the map. So it has, as I said, 15 tales inside, each written by different writers, which I think is really cool because each story has its own feel to it. And it kind of reminded me a bit of The Witcher, the first book, because I've read some of the first book, which is different tales, but the same character and universe, where this book is different tales, the same universe, but different characters. So that's really cool because you get to explore more of the world of Thedas through different eyes, in different places. And that's all that I want. So the first tale in the book is called 3 Trees to Midnight, written by Patrick Weeks. And the story is about these 2 characters who are kind of stereotypically against each other. One is a Tevinter, one is an elf. Tevinter and elves, as you know, don't have the best relationship in Tevinter. So they end up being shackled together, and throughout the story they kind of learn to appreciate each other and how they shouldn't really judge each other by who they are. So the story opens up in Ventus, a city in Tevinter, where the Antam, a military branch of the Qun, have invaded Ventus and are taking the men as slaves, or bus as they are called, which the Kunari in Qun, it means things. And they are also turning the Tevinter mages around the streets into zombie-like, almost dead, almost tranquil creatures just wandering the streets. So they take the bus to the shore of the Alathan forest to work chopping down the trees. And the leader of this is named Bastar. He is a Kunari in charge of this operation, and also there is another character named the Huntsman, who is there kind of overseeing everything, and is there in case any of the bus escape. So we meet our two main characters, Strife and Mirian. So Strife is an elf, an older elf, and Mirian is a human Tevinter. So they end up shackled together by the ankle and having to work together. And each other don't really like that because one is an elf, the other is a Tevinter. They're very judgmental of each other straight away. Strife is kind of a very loud mouth and being smart to the Bastar, which Mirian doesn't like. Mirian wants to keep quiet so he doesn't get in any trouble. So they end up going, and before they even start chopping down trees, they already end up in a fight. Mirian awakens later that night. They are in a shelter, and you see Strife communicating to a Hulla in the distance coming out of the forest, who knocks on the ground 3 times, and Strife knocks on his leg. So they're obviously communicating in some way. Mirian sees this, and he thinks it's kind of suspicious, and Strife tells him he doesn't have to worry about being shackled up to him anymore because he'll be out of there by morning. So the next morning, Strife wants to talk to the Bastar, and he does, telling him that he is suited to better work than chopping down trees. He has a friend who is an alchemist, and he thinks his use would be better working with his friend Thankyou. So the Bastar agrees to this, much to Mirian's surprise, and they are both taken to a tent where Strife sees Thankyou and a group of other mages, and they are in the same position as the mages that were inventors. They are almost like zombie-like, dead-like, just not even alive, just doing the work that the boss has instructed them to do. Can't really communicate with each other, so it's really sad to see. Strife is obviously very hurt that his friend is like this. His friend was also a Dalish elf. So Thankyou was in Ventus because he had his hands on some Canary plans, which they were actually going to take Ravane next. So Thankyou was going back to his Dalish clans to warn them about what the Canary plans are next. So Thankyou got a hold of these plans, but he ended up being captured and poisoned by Humek. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it is a poison that makes them obviously dead-like. So Strife is obviously very hurt when he sees Thankyou. The guard laughs about it and then tries to force poison down Strife's throat. Mirian sees this and then shoots magic out of his fingertips, and then there's a hole in the guard's chest. So Strife spits out the poison, and Mirian is very angry about this trouble that Strife has got him into, but then Strife says that he can help him escape. Well, he has no choice because they're shackled together, so he has to help him. If Strife wants to escape, he has to bring Mirian along with him. So they end up sneaking out of the tent, but before they actually enter the Alathan forest, Mirian saw one of his old friends in the tent as well, and he didn't have a good look at his face, but he knew it was her. So he didn't want to leave her like this or leave any of them like this, so he ended up throwing a fireball at the tent, and then it just blows up. And the Canary obviously react to this very fast. So Strife gets angry at Mirian, saying, "Why did you do this? Now they're going to be on our tails even more now. We could have had like a day ahead of them if we could sneak out." But Mirian didn't want to leave his friend or any of the other mages like this. So they escape into the Alathan forest, and the Bastar employs the huntsmen to go after him. The huntsman wanted to go after him with 12 other Canary, but the Bastar insisted that he comes along because these are his bus, and he feels like, you know, they're his, he owns them, and he wants to kill them. So himself. So they end up going after them. And in the forest, Miriam is obviously very not used to it. Strife knows exactly where he's going. The forest feels very creepy. And eventually they run into the Hulla that Strife and Miriam saw before in the shelter. And the Hulla turns into an elf woman who is Irulan, who is one of Strife's friends. This kind of made me jealous because I was like, damn it, if only like my Inquisitor or any of my other characters could have turned into a Hulla or like an animal. That would be really cool for something in Dragon Age 4. But so Strife hands the Qunari plans to Irulan and tells her to go warn the other clans and to be back to help them because they are going to continue on the run from these Qunari and they need her help. So they need her to go deliver the plans and come back as soon as possible to help them before they are caught. So there's also some dialogue between the huntsman and the Bastar, which is interesting because the huntsman has its bow and arrow, its arrow drawn on a gull in the distance feeding on a crab, and he's just got it holding it there. And the Bastar says, why don't you shoot it? Are you going to shoot it? And the huntsman says, no, it's like a needless kill. He doesn't need to kill it. He just wanted to know if he could. And the Bastar thinks this is stupid because he's very very just wanting to kill everything. He doesn't really want to think about anything. He just wants to kill. So that's like an interesting dialogue between the huntsman and the Bastar, because it makes the huntsman more interesting, and you're like, such a difference in two different types of Qunari, and you kind of want to know more about the huntsman. So Strife and Miriam are making their way through the forest, going as quickly as possible. They are still shackled, so Miriam is tripping over everything. He doesn't have any type of experience in these woods where Strife has more experience. He's trying his best to cover their tracks, even with Miriam messing up everything. And they end up coming to a river, and Strife tells him his experience in the Dalish clan and what the Dalish has taught him. And so they go across a river, and Strife says we should go upstream because that is where the huntsman and the Qunari would likely think they would not go. They would go probably across or downstream because it's easier. So as they are making their way across the rocks, they are constantly like arguing with each other again, being stereotypical of each other, making fun of Miriam, who's a Magister. As they are jumping onto another log, Miriam almost falls over, and then Strife almost falls over. Miriam goes to make fun of him until he sees that Strife has been shot in the back with an arrow. So the Qunari have caught up to them. They are shooting arrows. The Qunari are coming upstream. So Strife and Miriam hide behind a log and take cover there. And Strife needs the arrow taken out of his back. So Miriam takes the arrow out of his back. And Irulan gave him a bow. So they are now trying their best to fight off these Qunari. Miriam uses his magic, who he feels something very strange in the air with his magic, but he just ignores it and almost uses it to his advantage, and they kill off a couple of Qunari until the huntsman draws his bow again and then hits Strife through a log into his arm. Now he can't use his bow, and then as Miriam uses his magic one more time, a stone guardian comes out of the forest. It's just very angry. Strife tries to speak to the stone guardian, saying Underan Atashan, saying it over and over again. He says, this should work, he should not attack us. The guardian just stands there ready to attack, but then the Canary attacks the Guardian, so the Guardian turns its back on them and attacks the Canary, letting Strife and Miriam to run off. So they're running off in the distance. The huntsman ends up killing the Stone Guardian and tells the Bastar, we should leave this place. This isn't our, these woods aren't our area of expertise. We should go find someone else who knows more about these wood in the Kyun to help us out. The Bastar disagrees and says, no, these are my bus. We're going after them. I want to kill them. So they end up following them, and Strife and Miriam are going as fast as they can. They're feeling a little bit more sorry for each other. They stop and Miriam has a chance to heal Strife. They're kind of still like arguing a bit with each other, and then Miriam finally tells him he's not a Magister, he's a nobody. The only reason why he maybe has the clothes or his braces, fancy braces that he has, is because when he was young, he was taken into a family, adopted into a family that he worked with when he got his magic. So he's not a Magister. He feels like he comes from nothing. All he does is light the lamps through Ventus, and that's who he is. And then Strife opens up to Miriam as well, telling him he's not actually Dalish. He grew up in alienage in Starkhaven, and he was kind of a troublemaker in the alienage, and that the Dalish found him in the forest and kind of raised him. So they both understand each other more and feel for each other more, and know that they have to work together in order to survive this. So as they are making their way through the forest, running as fast as they can, Strife recognizes the forest and what the Dalish have taught him, and he finds an advantage spot where they can wait for the Canary to come and fight them off at their best there. So they wait there. Strife is relying on Irulan to show up still, but she hasn't shown up. And then they're still shackled, so they have to fight still shackled. The Canary make it there. Miriam uses his magic to the best of his ability to take some of them down. Strife is using his bow, and the Bastar, the leader, makes it up to them, and then he attacks Miriam and he gashes him on his arm. Strife is already down, and they are just thinking that this is it, this is the end, until Miriam thinks to himself he's gonna give it his everything this last time, after seeing Strife so badly hurt. Like, he's so angry, he has so much anger, he just wants to fight for his life and for Strife's life, and he's so angry at the Bastar and all this Canary. So as the Bastar has a axe to his throat, Miriam says, like, a little joke that Strife has been saying all along, calling the Bastar a bastard. So my accent didn't help me there. So he kind of uses what the Canary have told them from the beginning. He says, we're going to work together. So Strife and Miriam push the Bastar with their foot in the chest, and then push him over the hill, and then use the shackles to choke him. And they're just holding him there, trying their best to kill him. Sounds so weird explaining. And then the huntsman comes, and then the Bastar is yelling at him saying, help me, do something. The Bastar says, you have to fulfill your duty to the Kyun. So the huntsman puts down his bow and then says, I am not part of the Antam. He's part of the Ben Hasrath. He then throws his spear through the Bastar's chest, killing him. And at this point, I was just like, what? I mean, I kind of expected it, but then I also didn't, because reading it, you're so into the story that you're like, what? So Irulan is also there, who I forgot to mention, who was a bear, helping them. And then the huntsman comes up to him and ends up giving his bow to Strife, because Strife looked at that bow before and said, I want that bow. And then the huntsman kind of shares a few words with Irulan, and Irulan says, go in peace, Ben Hasrath, and then he takes the upper Canary and they all leave with him. And at the end, Strife uses the Bastar's axe to destroy the shackles, so now they're both free, and that's the end of the story. And I guess that the lesson learned here is don't judge each other. I just really like this story, and I love the characters Strife and Mirian, and oh my god, it would be so cool if we could see them in Dragon Age 4, because I really like them. And I just like the moral of the story, which is like you shouldn't really judge each other from where you come from. And it's just, I don't know, it's like a weirdly wholesome story. I don't know if that's the right word, but it was to me. I like that it incorporated a lot of like things that we kind of already know, and expanding on a little bit more of like the Kyun, different branches of it. We get to go to the Alaphan Forest, and Strife talks about like the Dalish beliefs and like how important they are to your surviving in the forest. And I also like how they weren't like a typical Magister or a typical elf. Like Mirian wasn't a Magister, he came from a poor family, he didn't have slaves. Like nothing that Strife was calling him was actually true, and the same to what Miriam was saying to Strife. So I don't know, it's just like a wholesome end where they learn about each other and become better people, I guess. It's everything that I wanted, and it's only the first chapter.